10% of any organization roughly belongs to the LGBTIQ community. How do we ensure that we're being inclusive towards them? One way of ensuring this is by making our policies inclusive. Welcome to this edition of Diversity Dialogues, where we're going to be focusing on how to make policies LGBT inclusive. The 5 policies we're going to be talking about are 1. Overall gender neutrality, 2. Prevention of sexual harassment, 3. Transition support, 4th. Relief policies, and 5th. Overall gender expression. Starting with the first one, which talks about overall gender neutrality. It's important that all the policies that we have are gender neutral, which means that instead of using terms like he or she, one uses they, which also means that instead of using terms like spouse, for example, one uses partner. It's important that the non-discrimination policy and the equal opportunity policy clearly states that any discrimination on account of gender identity or sexual orientation will not be tolerated by the organization. It's important that these things get reflected into different operational aspects, not only at the policy level. For example, the recruitment policy or the recruitment form should allow people to declare their own gender. The second one, moving on, is on the prevention of sexual harassment policy. There could be cases within the workplace where you do not necessarily have any one gender being the perpetrator and any one gender being perpetrated upon. So the policy needs to be inclusive to say that irrespective of gender, if there is any sexual harassment you are facing in the organization, you can report that out. It's important that the internal complaints committee is trained well to be able to take care of LGBT specific cases. The next policy we are here to talk about is the transition support policy. As we all know, many members of the LGBTIQ community, in specific the transgender population, may be undergoing a surgery called the gender affirmation surgery. In that process, the organization can support them either through monetary support or support them with leave, etc. And this should be specified in the policy. Also, to make the whole transition process easier for the organization and for the individual, adequate measures should be taken to ensure that a temporary replacement for the individual is identified well in advance, work is transitioned, and the person is able to come back to their work very smoothly. Now let's talk about something called the leave policies. So whether it is the parental leave should include aspects like adoption, should include aspects like surrogacy, and should be inclusive towards all, because you could have same gender partners going in for adoption or for any of this. Similarly, bereavement policy or any of these other policies which are with respect to leave should kind of include partners instead of including only spouses. The next policy we are here to talk about is gender expression. What does one mean by gender expression? Gender expression could be in the form of the way a person chooses to dress. It could be in the form of the way the person chooses to communicate. And therefore, it makes sense to have an overall set of guidelines which specify that any individual is allowed to dress as per their gender expression. It's also important to clearly state that every individual can use the restroom of their choice, can use a washroom as per their gender identity. And this is something which comes into a lot of speculation, because especially if you're belonging to the transgender community, there is often a situation where you cannot use either of the washrooms and you're stuck. So having a gender neutral washroom which specifically is available as a facility, and also to be able to specify that, is very important. And policies are the backbone of every organization. So make sure that in order to reflect a culture of inclusiveness, you're making your policies inclusive as the first step. Hope you found this video useful. In case there are any further questions, please feel free to write to us. Thank you, and looking forward to see you next time.